Young people constitute a substantial share of the population of most sub-Saharan African countries and of the region as a whole. Now, this creates a need for practical policies and related programs to engage youth effectively in all aspects of the development of their countries. Welcome to another episode of Fafanua Africa, a show that addresses topical issues as they relate to the youth across Africa, their involvement and participation. And it's with me, Blessings Mosugu. Now, with this two-sided show, I'll help you relax and unwind for the next 1 hour as we discuss the youth policy across the African continent. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, the governments of Ethiopia, of Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and Uganda are addressing this need by enacting youth policies to support the growth and inclusion of the young people. The workshop, Assessing National Youth Policies in Africa, which is a workshop and an initiative for youth policy enactment brought together by representatives from these countries, as well as the UNDP, the UNFPA, and the African Union Commission, to share and evaluate youth policies and related programs. Now, this meeting also served to strengthen commitment to the African Youth Charter and promote related activities for the Year of African Youth in 2008. Joining me now in the studio to discuss this is Victor ANI-LAJU, a founder and CEO, EPAY Nigeria. Thank you so much, Victor, for joining me.
Thank you, Blessing.
You look amazing, by the way. You look youthful and Nigerian. I like that.
Thank you.
All right. So without wasting time, let's go straight to it. Let's talk about the youth policy in Africa as a whole. When we talk about youth policy in Africa, what do we mean?
Okay, first thing first, just like you said during the introduction, in Africa, we have large number of young people. And we're not just only impacting Africa, we're impacting the globe. If you currently watch the World Cup currently going on right now, we've had a lot of young people from Africa who have given us quite good goals from different countries.
Oh, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, excellently. And if you check the statistics of young people who are doing well globally, you will find that majority of them are from Africa, right? So when we look at the African youth policy, okay, first, it talks about freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of education, just particularly about our human rights as young people, right? But beyond that, I don't think that is good enough. We need to take it from just being a written document to a policy that can be effectively implemented all over Africa, no matter where you're from, whether you're from Sudan, whether you're from South Africa, whether you're from Ghana, Nigeria, Morocco, Cameroon, right? We should be able to have like a policy that affects the entire youth all over Africa. And that way we could be able to make Africa one of the developed continents in the world.
All right, thank you so much for that, Victor. We'll be right back to talk about that. But right now, I mean, the youth matter, the opinions matter. So we will be looking at the vox pop we have to listen to the opinions of the youth on this same issue. And we'll be right back to talk about it on the back end.
I am a young African who believes in the future of this continent and the promise that it holds. Young Africans like myself across the continent wants to make meaningful contribution in the development of our society. Unfortunately, there are policies in place that prevents us from fulfilling our purpose at a very young age. In several African countries, young people are not allowed to run for elective positions. And in countries where they can run, there are several impediments on the way as well. Take Nigeria, for instance. To get a nomination form to run for an elective office, you need several millions of naira. And not many young people can afford that. So here you have a situation where there are people that have got the skill, the talent and the ability to transform our societies, but do not have the wherewithal because of the cost of running for office. I hope that we can do something about it so that we can make use of the young talents and change the face of our continent.
The government across Africa has failed to implement correct systems that will improve the quality of living of youth, particularly in Africa. I feel like government should develop policies, government should develop systems, government should develop to create employment opportunities, government should improve or increase the minimum wage, because if a youth is earning 33,000 naira in Nigeria, as a case study in Africa, it's extremely bad. There's inflation, there is insecurity in the land, there's fuel scarcity as we speak, and I feel like the government should create a system, that will alleviate these problems, and improve the welfare, of youth, particularly because the youth is the future of Nigeria and of Africa.
That African youths are one of the most talented youths in the world, great skills, great intelligence. We have everything, physique and what have you. But as it is today, the policies of African governments that they are bowing to International Monetary Fund and World Bank is making it very bad for us in terms of employment, in terms of education, in terms of healthcare. We have a situation whereby the standard of living is very low and the cost of living is getting higher and higher. So African youth need to rise up against the continuation of the implementation of structural adjustment program, and we need to build a new pro-developmental Africa for all Africans and especially the youths.
Well, there you have it. We have heard profound words from the youth across Africa, and it's going to bring us back to our discourse on the policies that are being implemented in Africa or not. And I still have with me here, Victor. Thank you so much for staying with me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So earlier you were talking about what policies are, and you mentioned some on the surface policies that we have here in Africa. And I would really like to ask: are they not shallow enough? I mean, we see the things that the youth need. We see that they need access to uninterrupted education, job employment and all of that. But in the policies that are just written, by the way, we're just seeing a lot of, freedom of speech and those on the surface things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, one of the basic challenge that I would say is facing the African youth today is because some of the older generation are in seat of power, and they are the ones that determine what policies are implemented that affect the youth. And in most cases, the youths are not being carried along in implementing these policies, right? So we have African Union Youth Charter, which is just still freedom of speech, association, expression, and the rest. But we should go beyond that, right? Because the world is changing, and we have to change some of these policies. We have to understand the dynamics of the 21st century that we're into today. And we need to understand that the youths of 10, 20 years ago and the youth of today, they are two different entities. The way we reason, the way we relate, the way we do our things are quite different, right? So because these persons that are making these policies are not young people now, that becomes a very big challenge because they don't know what the youth need, right? And most times they don't inquire from the youth to say, tell us what do we need. Now, let's take it for example. As of today, let's use Nigeria for example. We are supposed to have uninterrupted power supply, right? And we're supposed to have free internet everywhere, all over the country. But as we speak, there is not even a local government today that you can say there is free internet there. And the youth of today need internet like they need water, right? But who is going to bring up that policy? It's still this older generation that's in power. And that is why, like myself, I believe in the idea of let's have a new Africa. A new Africa that is made for young Africans, led by young Africans, and that will be developed and designed by young Africans, so that we can build a better future for ourselves and also for our children that are coming. Because you might be so shocked in the next 10, 20 years, you may not have to write, you may not have to see pen and paper. The world is going digital, and the youth of today wants a digital environment, want a digital society. But believe you me, this old generation that are leading us currently now, they cannot build this digital environment that we want to work in. Right? So let me give you an instance. You know, probably before now, you don't see young guys doing cab. You don't see young guys doing taxi. But with the introduction of the likes of Uber, Taxify, Bolt, and the rest, today you see young people embracing that.
Yeah.
So whenever the digital platform is created, the young people are eager to work, because that's what we understand better. That's what we know better. But I still go back to the same thing. The old people that are leading us don't understand this. They don't have idea of what we want. They don't have the idea of how we want to live our life. They still even are trying to tell us, live your life the way they lived their life. And that becomes a major problem. That is why we are where we are today in Africa. I will tell you as of today, the youngest president or head of state in Africa, as we speak, should be nothing less than about 55, 60, and which is not good enough. Majority of African leaders are old people in their 70s that don't have the direct idea of what the digital world is all about. That itself is a total failure. Medicals have gone into digital. Finance have gone digital. Fintech has taken over the space. Even now, agriculture is going digital. But who are going to implement all of these policies? The older generation cannot. It will take young people like you and I, who understand the digital platform, to be able to implement these policies. And we are doing our best, talking to this older generation, telling them, I think your time is up. Why don't you allow us to build a continent that will be favorable to even you, the old, we currently the young people, and the children coming after us, right? Because if we cannot do that, if you know, in Africa, we have over 75% of young people. And people who are leading us are old people. So it's like in Africa, the minority leads the majority, and which is supposed to be the reverse. We're supposed to have young people leading Africa. And that is why you see that a lot of young people in Africa are migrating. Let me use the word in Nigeria terms, jackpying. You understand?
Yeah.
But the problem is that they are not jackpying to go and fold their hand wherever they are going to. And if you know the truth, even the developed nations, they already know the potential of African youth. Just imagine the president of Canada saying that they are going to take 1.5 million young people from Africa to their country to help them do what? To help them build their country.
Yeah.
To help them develop their country.
Because they know the potentials that the youth carry.
And we have presidents here who feels that the youth should go back to farm. I'm not saying the youth should not farm, but if we have to farm, their digital way of farming. You can't expect us to go back to farm carrying the cutlass and no. They are mechanized way of farming. And I will say this, that it's either of two things. Either we allow the young people to take over leadership and build one of the greatest continents in the world, or we allow these old people to keep us in poverty and hunger. It's one of both those things. It's shameful that sometimes you hear from these old people, they are trying to put the blame on the youth, that the youth are not going into agriculture. But no, if you want to ask me, if you make agriculture as juicy, make it more digital, make it more mechanized, you don't even have to talk to us to get into it. We will embrace it.
Exactly. So the thing is, the youths know the techniques that are needed to make this digitized and make life easier.
Yeah.
But it's a case of, so the key is in the hands of the youth, but the leaders who represent the youth do not understand this vision and they're not willing to see it as well.
Well, it's of two sides. Understanding an idea is one. Knowing the idea is two. We know what we want. We have spoken to most of our leaders that are representing us. But it's different when it is we that is doing it by ourselves.
Right.
Do you understand? It's a total ball game entirely. Now you can trust me enough as a young person to represent your country in sports. Why can't you trust me enough as a young person to be the head of the country, to lead the country? Why? The question I always ask the older generation, if you will know, majority of this older generation started their leadership, started leading their countries in their youthful age. But we have a generation of old leaders now that have decided to die with power. And that itself is discouraging. In Africa, don't take it away. I hear some elderly people say the youth are waiting for us to give them power. No, we are not waiting. We are politely asking. Because why? It's that we don't want to go violent. Violence is not part of us in Africa. In Africa, we have been taught to respect our fathers, our elders. Whether they are doing evil, you are bound to respect. It's only in Africa that your parents will offend you. You will have to go back and apologize to them, right? So even if we have a bad leader that is doing rubbish, we are not trained to be violent. So it's sad when I hear some older generation saying, oh, no, it is your responsibility as the older generation to create platforms, to create opportunity for the younger generation so that they can make life even be better for you at your older age when you cannot walk, right? But whether they like it or not, I believe that the young Africans, we are beginning to rise. Like today, you hear us in sports, you hear us in entertainment, you hear about us in fintech, you hear about
practically
us
taking over the world.
In fashion, you hear about us in music, right? But when it comes to politics, which is where policies are being made, you don't hear about us, right? But I'm going to tell you the truth about it. In the next 3 to 4 years, this whole thing will just be out. We're going to fade out these old politicians that have kept.
But so how is that going to happen? Seeing how there's a huge, barrier between the youth now and that brings me to why so many people doubt the veracity of the claims that the youth are actually the leaders of tomorrow, because these leaders are not giving space. So, and you said that they won't give us power, we have to take it. But how do we do that?
The truth about it is that it's still a shame for the older generation waiting for us to come push them out. Because it's their responsibility. It's actually their responsibility to prepare us to lead our continent as Africans to a higher height, a higher level. It's a shame. Let's not allow that. Let's not allow these old people put it on us that is our problem. It's more of their greatest problems. We have seen countries that young people have said, let's lead. And you find out that the older generation will use their military of those countries to cramp these young people, right? To tag them, call them they are terrorists, they are bad people, they're trying to spoil the peace of the nation. Whereas in the reverse, it's this older generation that is killing the potentials of the young people, right? You could see the fraud going on today in Africa. 80 to 85% of the perpetrator of those fraud are older generations. And based on finances, when you give a young person an opportunity to handle funds, the money definitely will go faster and will go around almost to everybody. But when you give an older person money, that old person will take that money, go and keep it somewhere. And that's what we see all playing around in Africa. So when you go to your village now, try your grandma, give her money. She goes somewhere under the box and hide that money. I have experienced one. I think the day they told us we lost our grandmother, under her bed, we brought her that box. We saw a lot of money. But give that money to a young person, the young person will utilize the money. We either start up a business or start up something. So what I'm saying in total is the people who are in charge of policy making are the politicians. And in Africa, our biggest challenge is that our major politicians are older people, right? So for us to get it right, we must make sure that we have young people playing so much key roles in politics, right? When we get that right, you will see proper implementation of youth policies across countries in Africa. And that is not something that can be done overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some push by different people like myself who have chosen to join the race, who have chosen to become one of the voice and to be not just the voice, to be the voice of the young people. Because the young people, we have the energy, we have the number, we have the idea, we have the ability, we have the capacity, we can relate, we are more global inclined, right? We know the trend, we know what is expected of a 21st century country, right? We are driven by development. So, and bringing such people on board, it's going to change the dynamics. Today in Africa, you hear about some leading banks doing well. Check, the people who started those banks, they started it from their youth. So, and it pains me why, when it comes to our government, which is the seat of power of everything, we still have older people there. But my prayer, my passion, my desire is to make sure that between now and the year 2025, we have good young people that are able to lead us, male, female, wherever they are from Ghana, from Senegal, from Gabon, from Botswana, from South Africa, from Nigeria, wherever they are coming from, they are able to lead their country and lead it very well. I will always say this wherever I go. The best thing any father can give to their children is to keep inheritance. But the worst thing we have gotten from Africa is that most of our fathers are not keeping inheritance for us. They are stealing from us. They're even putting us into debt. You understand? African continent has a lot of debts around them. And guess who is going to pay those debts? It's you and I, the young people. The money that our fathers have eaten, we are going to come back and pay for the money we did eat. And other developed countries are keeping wealth for their unborn generation. So you see all of this. You see all of this. And permit me to say this. Both of us, we can think in this light because, number one, maybe we are privileged to basic education. We are privileged that we can eat today. Do you know, as I speak today, over 3 million young people in Nigeria today have not eaten for the past 24 hours. Is it that kind of youth you want to tell to come and think about development? No. So you find out that the problem is still from this older generation, right? I understand people want to talk about the youth, that they're not passionate, they're not zealous, they want you to just... No, that's not true. Why is it that when we go to developed countries, we are doing well? And why is it that in our home motherland, we're not doing well? Because the atmosphere is not conducive. Because the societal belief of where we are today is not youth-friendly. It's not youth-friendly. People today are still being harassed about their dressing, about their hairstyle, about the way they want to do their things. Man, forget about it. We're in 21st century. We are they call it the Gen Zs. We cannot live life the way life was lived 40 years ago. No, development must occur. Things must grow. It's not a digital world, a digital space. People should be free to associate. People should be free to express themselves. People should be free to appear the way they want to appear. As far as they are all doing it in the favor of the society, and we are making the society become more better, more friendlier, and we're able to run a society that does not discriminate, whether male or female, whether old or young. It's a society that everybody are giving in their quota. Because the truth about it is that no matter how smart you are, age is still a major factor in performance. No matter how you're going to say it. Forget about people saying this, that, you can do this at an older age. No, you still need a time in your life where you have that energy, where you have that strength, where you have that understanding the way you think. You're not thinking at like somebody that was living about 100 years ago, right? You are thinking about what is going on right now. Because the truth about it, no matter how good your idea look like today, if it doesn't relate with the people of today, it's of no use. I can't start bringing typewriter out now for us to start using typewriter. We've gone beyond that. We have digital keyboard these days that we can use. So what I'm saying is, we need young people to be in the seat of power, because in the seat, what I'm focusing about the seat of power is the seat of power that determines what policies is being implemented. Is the people, is the government of your state that determines what policy is being implemented in your state. Is the president of your country that determines what youth policies are being implemented in your country. We have a lot of youth charter that is just in writing, but I don't think up to 10% are being implemented. And it had to go beyond just the freedom of association, freedom of movement. We should have across Africa, right, a scheme where every young person in Africa can go through that scheme. In that scheme, you can be taught a skill, you can learn a trade, you can learn leadership, you can even learn security, right? You can even learn home management, how to take care of your home, how to take care of your family. And this can go across Africa. So even if I'm in Kenya, I'm learning same. Even if I'm in Nigeria, I'm learning same skill. So when we meet together, we are thinking alike. We are seeing ourselves as brothers and sisters. We are thinking of Africa. We are now Pan-Africa. This Pan-Africa we're talking about is not just about just a written statement or a slogan. No, it has to do with our behavior, our approach to things. And that is why I said that the government in total, the African Union, need to go beyond those freedom of association and all of that. Create a scheme that we say from this age to this age, every young person, you must go through this process. You will learn security, learn leadership, you will learn entrepreneurship, you will learn a skill. With these four things, Africa will be one of the best continents to live in. Because why? Naturally, Africa is already blessed. Other continents are trying to fight to have greenland area. Africa, we are already green in nature. Do you understand it? We don't struggle to grow crops. Crops grow on their own. We have land. We have water. What else do you need? We have the young population. So what we just need a little bit of training, a little bit of education. Not when we talk about education is not teaching you how to build an aeroplane. Education is just teaching you how to live within your surrounding, how to live within your community, how to live peacefully and friendly, right? How to relate with your fellow human beings and animals and plants.
All right, that's very true, Victor. Kindly hold that thought, because I'm enjoying this and I really do not want us to go now. But we will have to go on a short break and we'll come back to talk about this, because this is a very vital topic and I think everyone needs to learn this. Even the youth themselves need to learn this. So we'll go on a short break now, and when we come back, it's still Fafanwa Africa with Victor ANI-LAJU, who is definitely spitting so much fact, and I must confess I am also learning a lot from it. We'll be right back.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Well, thank you for staying with us on Fafanwa Africa. We have been talking about African youth policies. Several African countries have made progress in developing youth policies as embodied in the African Youth Charter Original Framework for Youth Development, as well as in other reports including the AYR and the United Nations NVV5 World Programme of Action for Youth to the year 2mm and beyond. But overall, the progress seems to have been slow, and the available policies or actions do not exactly adequately meet the challenges. Now, still staying with me is Victor ANI-LAJU, the founder and CEO of EPAY Nigeria. Before we went on break, Victor, you were talking about policies that need to be implemented for the youth and, some of the initiatives that can be beneficial to the youth. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you about your platform, the electronic payment platform. Could you please tell us more about that?
Okay, so I founded EPAY the year 2005, right? It's a digital platform that enables you to make payment transactions from anywhere in the world, right? And as we go into it, we now have to develop it to become a lifestyle platform. So that it's now a digital platform that enables you to do medical transactions. So you're registered between over 2,000 hospitals, right? So at any time you have any issue, you can get an ambulance almost immediately to the nearest hospital that will take care of you, and you might almost be paying like 50% discount off it. So on that same platform, we now had to bring in skill handyman. So I'm looking for a plumber today. I don't have to go and start asking, do you need a plumber around? I just go to the app, the digital platform, sort out for a plumber, and the plumber is someone that is very close to me, and the plumber comes, fix whatever he or she needs to fix, and I pay them via the same app, right? And we also had to shift it into housing, real estate, where I need to rent an apartment. I don't have to be scammed by one agent and all of that. On that same platform, I can search for houses, I get the house, I pay directly to the owner of the house, right? So what we now did in solving part of these problems we're facing in Africa, we're able to now build a lifestyle platform that will enable you to do vertically everything. Yeah, it's one app that can do everything for you. You can even shop on the platform, yeah. But majority of the things you're buying directly from either the manufacturer or the registered distributor. So we try to make sure that the platform, it's friendly, user-friendly, it's cheaper. Then we now introduce what we call the e-coin. The e-coin, it's not actually like the Bitcoin, but the e-coin is just for us to have one currency. Right? Because I know one of the biggest problems of Africa, it's our inability to have one currency. When we are able to have one currency, it will help us. So Ghana don't have to print their own money. Nigeria don't have to spend money print their own money. Kenya don't have to spend money print their own money. So if we can bring 10% of what it costs us to print money, we can print one currency that will be used here in Africa. One of the biggest challenge of Africa is unity. And that problem is an external problem. The Western world indirectly are trying to divide us in Africa. Why are they dividing us? Because Africa will grow better and become stronger than the Western world when they are united. So it's not left for us now as Africans to now say, you know what, we want to do without the Western world. Let's come together and build an Africa by Africans for Africans. First, you can accommodate. We're Africans, we are accommodative. We allow the whites, the red, the Indians, everybody comes into Africa, right?
Yeah. So,
and with this introduction of this app, it has helped us to move, scale, push our brands, our products towards other countries. At least, for example, now we are in over 80 countries as we speak. So, and you can download the app currently now on the Google Play Store and for now. So, and that helps. But our focus is that we want to make sure that we create a platform that can give employment to over 40 million people on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a beautiful initiative. Talking about the African youth taking action, this is an example of that. And we'll definitely be right back to talk more about the youth taking action. We have some Twitter reactions to this same topic, and we'll be looking at them right now to see what African youth have to say. Now, Pan-African Parliament says youth dialogue on ending malnutrition and hunger in Africa opens in Rabat. The young parliamentarians were challenged to take the lead in the formulation of policies and strategies that enhance the full participation of the African youth in political and decision-making processes. Another reaction on Twitter is from the next person, Africa Update, that says, skill and education mismatches are more prevalent among youth in Africa than in our regions. Now, smart policies need to be implemented by African government so as to give this youth the best education and skills for the future. We're definitely going to talk about that with my guests because there are so many questions I want to ask regarding that. Now, Mike Sagana says, half or one of the two, it is essential that youth are included in spearheading transformative policies in governance. Youth have the potential to bring about positive change and progress, and their voices should be heard. But how do they spearhead these changes if they're not given the chance to do so, right? Now, Citizen Support says, let us have the youth at the table when formulating and implementing government policies for prevention and countering of violent extremism, because these policies are meant to benefit them. I mean, they keep saying that the policies are for the youth, but they leave us out of the decision-making process. Now, the only way to know the youth voices, and this is said by the ELF Africa, are being heard to when we see proposals by the youth considered and adopted and mainstreamed into national policies. Hashtag youth. Now, we're still talking about youth policies, and we've seen reactions online about, people talking about youth policies, talking about youth being involved in policies, but the leaders seem to sideline us when it comes time to make decisions. So yes, I'm still with Victor, and we're still going to be talking about, youth policy and the implementation. Now, there is a debate going on that the reason why the leaders are not, empowering youth is not because they don't know the struggles. It's not because they don't know these initiatives. It's because they don't have the facilities or the equipment or enough money to do that. And a lot of youths don't buy into this idea because, you can use what you have to empower this youth. So given the excuse of not having enough facilities to empower youth does not exactly sit well with the youth across Africa. I want to hear your thoughts on that because they keep saying that, the youths keep saying the leaders are not including them in decision making, and they're not even empowering them to make lives better for themselves. So they're just hanging somewhere. And then the leaders are saying that that's not the case. The problem is we don't have the facilities to empower you, but people don't believe that.
So the challenge here is that is the willpower. The older generation are not willing to empower the younger generation. Is the willpower. Is the willpower. If they are willing to, the funds will always come. Whatever device, equipment they need will always come. The problem is not the funding. The problem is not that we don't have the machinery. The problem is that are they willing? Just like I said to you right now, as Africa, as a big continent with huge number of close to about 700 million young people, right? We don't have a comprehensive scheme that is focused on the youth. Just like I told you, if we only have just a scheme, say immediately you are 18, you only clock 18 years in Africa as a young person, there is a scheme you will be registered under. That scheme is going to teach you 4 things. Security, number 1. Entrepreneurship, number 2. Leadership, right? After leadership, it will now teach you a skill that you desire to learn. And that skill will be tied to education. Just these 4 things will turn Africa to be one of the best continents in the world. We don't see, naturally, Africa is blessed. We don't have problem with natural disaster.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
That's true.
Do you understand what I'm saying? We have greenland areas, so we can go into our agriculture 100%. We still have land that is not utilized. We can build houses, millions of houses across Africa. What else do we need again?
And that's why so many people say that we are our own problems, because the level of
No, it's not just we.
I know, but
the older generation.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, when I say we now, Africans generally, because the level of issues that we cannot control is very minimal compared to the issues that we're inflicting on ourselves.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, let's take Nigeria, for example. Nigeria that we know today is one of the internet user globally. When you are counting countries that uses the internet, Nigeria falls in between first, second, and third.
Wow.
So as of today now, we should not be spending money for subscription. We should have free access to internet across every state in Nigeria. Why am I using Nigeria, for example? Because Nigeria is still the giant of Africa. We are supposed to play the modern role in Africa. We are supposed to be the arrowhead, right? Especially when you turn the trigger of Africa, the map of Africa, Nigeria stays at that trigger point, right? If we get it right in Nigeria, other African nations will pick up, right? So, and let me now even tell you, most of the areas you see young people doing well in Africa today, that's why you cannot find the older generation getting glory from there. It was really young people that fought our way through into entertainment.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even when we were fighting our way into entertainment, these older people were dealing with us, arresting us, countering us, making us feel that we're going the wrong way. But today, entertainment is paid higher. We fought our way into sports. A lot of our parents never wanted us to be associated with sports.
So it seems like the older generation in Africa do not just refuse to draw the younger generation, but then they sideline and talk down on every initiative.
They suppress, they oppress.
Until it's time to celebrate their wins, because now we see the older generation celebrating athletes and even skit makers. These are the things that they were arguing that it wasn't necessary before.
Do you understand? And most times when they even come to celebrate, it's not actually celebrating, it's just for them to be seen as they love what the young people to do, they know what the young people are doing, but internally they don't. I still don't know why the older generations in Africa don't want the young generation to rise. I don't know why. I'm still looking for what mindset, what informed that mindset, because the greatest thing you can have as a father is to see your children doing better. Doing better. In Nigeria today, take for example, I decided to run for the seat of the president. But at some point, I had to, lie low, because we had too many old people coming into the platform. Yeah. And some of them have health problems. Some of them have corruption problems. Some of them have drug problem. It's not time for you to just go home and sit and help the younger ones build their life. What are they coming to do? Where are they leading us to? They're in their old age, they're leading us to old age. And we are trying to detach ourselves from those old age to live in a new age. But they are taking us to. So I always will say this. Most people don't like it. Most people don't like me for saying it. The biggest problem of Africa is not the African youth, it's the older generations in Africa. I'm saying this cross-board. Look at most of the countries in Africa. We are being led by old people. And the truth about it is that I don't have any problem with somebody being old. I love being old. I want to get old. But I want to give to my generation what I have now that I'm strong enough. Now, if you have tried the older generation and they have failed, don't you think it's wiser? Don't you think it will be better to try younger people, right? In doing this, in doing all of this, the life of the older people will even be better. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. They will enjoy their old age. They will enjoy their retirement age. That's why you still see a lot of them. Instead of them retiring, they are still going out there. Nobody sent them out there. But because they have failed. Because a father that has failed to bring up their children well, we suffer in old age. It's only that father that you see still going about. If you have spent time in investing in your children, in your old age, those children will in return out of the love that who they are today, because of the sacrifice you pay, right? They will in turn come back and help you. But if you don't treat them well, if you don't give them the opportunity, if you are not there to encourage them, to empower them, in your old age, you will not see them. All right? So going forward, I know that the young Africans are not sleeping. We are doing our best, using our own funding. People will tell you, there's fund for young people to go into agriculture. Where is the fund? They tell you there's fund. You should go to the bank and apply. You go to the bank, banks are not willing.
It's just a very cumbersome
Banks
process.
are not even willing to give young people funds. Do you understand it? They rather want to give an old person fund. Why? Now, if you check the way we run things in Africa, majority of our funds, our money, goes into the hand of older people.
Right.
Older generation. You are paying somebody pension at 60, 65, 70. You are giving a person pension of millions of naira, right? And you are paying somebody that just graduated from university. You're giving the person in Nigeria, you're giving the person about 32,000 naira. Who need money more? Are you not supposed to invest more in a younger person than the old person?
I mean, well, Victor, this is a topic that cannot be exhausted. This is something that we need to keep hammering on until there is a change in the system, especially in the policy implementation in Africa. And I really want to thank you for doing justice to this topic. I mean, I sat here and I was schooled because I've learned a lot from what you have said about the policies and the things that we need to do as well as you. So really, thank you for coming on my show to talk about this.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you. All right, that was the CEO of EPAY Nigeria, Victor ANI-LAJU, who joined me to talk extensively about the policy in Nigeria. Well, one way to refer to messages sent to us by those before us is through quotes. So quickly, let's take you through some quotes right now. Several theories, including demographic factors, have been proposed to explain the poor economic performance of African countries compared with other regions of the world. Unfortunately, the plight of youth has been neglected far too long, but African governments still have the opportunity to utilize these resources or face the consequences of social unrest and stunted economic growth and development, especially with the youth. It's been an amazing one-hour PAX program, and thanks to my guest, Victor ANI-LAJU, the CEO and founder of EPAY, an electronic platform in Nigeria, West Africa. Now, till I see you again next week on this show, my name is Blessings Mosugu, and do have a lovely day.